Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Zalewski, and I will be moderating a panel today on the topic of navigating the AI data security landscape. And with me today on the panel, I have three very esteemed guests. The first is Danny Portman, who is the head of AI for his company. I have Ganesh Kirti from TrustLogix, who's the CEO, and I have Malcolm Harkins, who is the CISO for HiddenLayer. So, gentlemen, welcome to the panel. What I'd like to do first is give you each a little bit of time, talk about your background, right? We're going to have a conversation on AI data security. And in order to do that, I find it valuable for the audience to hear a little bit about how you got to where you are. And why is this a passionate topic for you that you're willing to take your time to talk to me and us about it? So a little bit about your background, please, and a little bit about why this is a topic of choice for you today. What is driving you to have this conversation? So in no particular order, Danny, I'll have you go first.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. So I'm Danny Portman. I'm the head of AI and VP data science for Zeta Global. My background, I hold a PhD in computational astrophysics, which obviously is very related to this topic, but for the past 10 years or so, I've been doing data science and machine learning. And for the past 2 years, I've been leading a generative AI research and development group at Zeta Global. And some of the things that we built and shipped to production are directly relevant to our conversation here. We built a marketing large language model based agent that has access to various layers of data that can execute complex analytics queries, can create marketing campaigns. So we had to tackle a lot of hands-on AI plus data security issues over the past year and a half, and I'm excited to share some of the lessons learned with everyone.
So I can't resist. So we have a true rocket scientist talking about to us on a topic that hopefully doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand. So thank you for helping us simplify it. Malcolm, you're next.
Thanks, Steve. So Malcolm Harkins, Chief Security and Trust Officer at HiddenLayer. I spent most of my working career at Intel for 24 years, first in business roles, but then in late 2001 in security. Along that journey, before I became Chief Security and Privacy Officer at Intel Worldwide, as CISO, I also happen to have the data science team report to me back 15, 16 plus years ago. So it was early in that kind of big data analytics and leveraging it for different things, not only for security, but also for enhancement of Intel's factory yield capabilities. After Intel, I went to Cylance. A lot of people remember Cylance. It was the first real security company to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to mitigate execution of malicious code. And since then, I've been with other startups. I'm currently with HiddenLayer, as I mentioned, who won the 2023 Sandbox Innovation Award for its focus on securing artificial intelligence. So for me, it's goes back to my roots at Intel, goes back to the core aspect of security around the data controls and the data protection from all aspects of it. And so, for me, this is a critically important subject for where we're at with AI today and where it's going to head.
Ganesh.
Steve, thank you so much. And Malcolm and Danny, it's great to have having this discussion with both of you, and including Steve. Folks, my name is Ganesh Kirti, founder, CEO of TrustLogix. I'm passionate about security. That's the only thing I have done in my entire career, 20 years. Having done identity management and application security, database security, middleware security, worked at large companies, including Oracle, small companies, startups. This is my second startup as a founder. Having done security, I know that implementing data security is very, very hard. And it's very hard in general. Building RBAC engines back in the days, in my past, it's a very hard to implement that. And it became even complex with the cloud, where the way the data is used now, compared to 10 years ago, where there's only one specific way to use data, but things are so different in the cloud. It's become very complex securing data in the cloud with the data sprawl given and data sharing happening. Data usage patterns are so different. Now, on top of that, now with AI, is bringing more challenges. It's got more security baggage. That is bringing even more difficult implementing data security for AI applications, AI systems, AI data, which we're going to talk about that. This is really interesting for me, and I'm passionate about solving this problem. And great to have this discussion today. Steve.
Excellent. So for the audience, you can see we don't just have three panelists. We have three panelists that bring very different perspectives to this problem, which is why today what we want to do is decompose it as best we can to offer the best practical experience with three very senior operators in cybersecurity and their perspectives. But the next thing I have to ask is, we just got done with RSA. That was a couple weeks ago. Most of us are still reeling from that exercise of 6 days of intense conversations. So on the topic of AI data security, I know Ganesh, Malcolm, both of you were there with me. Can you spend a few seconds and give me your kind of impressions of RSA and where this was in the plethora of marketing messaging that you were seeing? Malcolm, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, well, I think AI was everywhere at RSA, and from a few different angles. One was every security vendor who's slapping a label saying they're using AI to enhance your security, make you more efficient and effective. Now, while some of that's true for some of them, frankly, some of that's just a bunch of marketing crap. And they're doing AI washing to put a label on something because it sells. So you had that aspect of it. Then there was the aspect of AI used as an attack, right? I'm going to leverage AI as an attacker, creating deep fakes or weaponization of things. And so the use of attackers leveraging AI to improve and execute attacks in different ways. And then there was AI itself, and AI needing to be protected because the existing controls weren't built for the file types, the formats, the model types, and those type of things. So I think you had three different categories of AI being discussed. And if I ignore the marketing crap, then you go leveraging AI as a mechanism for attack and then protecting AI itself. Both of those have data protection aspects of them that need to be managed through the life cycle, depending upon the data and the context of what you're responsible for.
Yeah, so I can take, yeah, Steve. So RS has always been great. I heard 40,000 plus attendees, and it's just a great community of cyber experts. It's a really good feeling, seeing so many discussions, collaborations, a lot of announcement, as Malcolm said, a lot of AI topics, a lot of AI-centric topics. One thing was clear from the RSA and even in the past also, right? There is this new, now the natural language is becoming the new coding tool, right? That's really the reality looks like for the next few years. Malcolm talked about there is AI, but there is also, if I may summarize, there's a lot of concerns around the security and privacy. The reason for that is also because there's exponential growth of data. It's already happening, before AI, now with AI, the AI needs more data. The more data is better for AI, right? So that's putting a lot of pressure on all these companies out there, and that's causing exponential growth of data, and there's a sensitiveness around that. And there's also complexity about accessibility of that data for these applications in a secure fashion, right? So there's a lot of concerns around that. There is really a need for new innovation of security solutions. It's pretty clear, at least in my mind. talking to a few companies and a few experts out there. And there are a couple of specific points I also identified in my own discussions is there's a data governance area, which is really a challenge, has been a challenge, in general, especially, from the security perspective, there is no common collaboration angle between the security people and the business people who own the data and then the data consumers, because the security people want to control and secure data, and there really has to be some understanding of metadata around the data. The challenge is there's no agreement between all these stakeholders, security people and data people, and so there is a little bit of a data governance is really important. Is kind of evolved in the discussions. There are concerns around that, but I think we'll talk about that as we get into the discussion. I'll kind of cover some of those things. The last thing, my observation is the cloud, because it was my interest also, cloud data security area. It's I see that, over the last few years, a lot of business teams were focused on building data lakes and data warehouses, because of, the benefit of cloud, the storage benefit, cost benefit, scalability benefits that has been going on. Now I see increasingly the security people are getting involved because there's a lot of sensitive data moving into these data lakes and data warehouses. So now the security folks are now paying attention to that. Now they're asking for, hey, look, I need visibility. I need to understand what type of business data is moving in there, right? So I kind of also some discussions around cloud data security now picked up by security folks. So I leave it there, Steve. Those are a few of my observations from RSA. It's a great, the event. Enjoyed it.
Good. All right, let's pivot. Let's talk about business use cases. Let's get into it now, which was, what is the problem and what are we going to do about it? And so with that, I'm going to start with Danny as the rocket scientist trying to figure out for his company what he's going to do. So Danny, can you talk to us from your perspective, right? What's the problem? Well, why are we here? Why can't you solve the problem with the plethora of 4,000 companies selling you existing security tools? What's not working? So what is the business kind of demanding of you? What are you seeing? And kind of walk us through the problem that we're up against.
Sure. Well, it's not necessarily that there's a unbridgeable problem. It's more about risk mitigation and finding the right path to build something in a secure way and get it to production. But so I can talk about several challenges that for example I saw along the way for the past few years. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we were primarily doing traditional machine learning and deep learning, where you have your data sets and you're training a model, and then once you have the trained model, you can apply it for generating business value in production. And the thing is that the end user only meets those models as they only see the outputs of those models. So they don't have a direct interface. They never talk directly to an AI. This is even not 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, right? So all of the AI work would happen behind the scenes, very secure environment within the VPN, and the client only the end user's only touch point with your business solution would be the interface of what you built. So AI is on the back end, behind the scenes, doesn't really pose a measurable attack surface. This has changed drastically since the Chat GPT evolution almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So now everyone is building apps that allow end users, sometimes internet users, to interact directly with some of the AI tools within your company. So that produces a whole new level of challenge, because in order to actually provide business value to those users, that AI has to have access to data. because otherwise it's no better than just Chat GPT that knows Wikipedia articles and stuff like that. So the real challenge, or I would agree that the problem that I think everyone is facing these days is, how do I stay up to date with this unstoppable demand for I want to be able to interact with AI. I want to be able to execute my sort of business tasks faster and with access to more data and more empowered, but still in a secure way, so that like users don't have access to data that they should not see, or malicious users don't get an opportunity to exfiltrate large amounts of data from that new attack surface. So that's sort of like the problem that I see, and I think everyone is trying to figure out how to solve that, and for the past I guess year and a half or 2 years. Malcolm, what do you think?
No, I think you're right, Danny, and I think the data protection problem has evolved. But even in the traditional, what I'll say, predictive classic AI sense, there was still data protection challenges. And an example from my past, 6 months after BlackBerry bought Cylance, an adversarial research team posted a blog saying, "Silence, I kill you." They were able to, because of the interactions they were able to do with the machine learning capability, be able to figure out the weights of the model. Once they figured out the weights of the model, they were able to create a universal bypass. Now, once you figure out the weights of a model, even in a traditional sense, you in essence can do model theft, because you can recreate the model. That's intellectual property. That's data. Right. So, you can think of this in different context. A manufacturing company that's using AI to optimize factory output, a random user internally. Again, if they got compromised, you don't have to necessarily compromise the data pipeline, the data storage itself. You could still steal that intellectual property, that trade secret stuff, if you can infer aspects of the model. Then you've got, the explosion of ChatGPT, and then to your point, it's been externalized, right? Beyond just a handful of users in that internal sense, or in Cylance's sense, the user got the benefit, but they weren't really interacting with the model, other than they were indirectly, right? When it would stop the execution of malicious code. But with Gen AI, whether it be an internal use case, if you're in a large accounting firm and you go, "I've got 30,000 accountants," and guess what? When they write audit findings, by and large, that process is repetitive, similar. And so you start feeding a proprietary Gen AI model with all of those prior findings, so that way you can speed up the audit findings and reports. Well, guess what? There's data protection challenges of that. Where's that data? How's it been fed? How's the data protected in the ML ops pipeline? In addition to, once you've got the AI there, how is it potentially being leveraged, where I can again dump the model or do prompt engineering and then get it to spit out to me things that it wasn't meant to do. And then you've got the externalization of it, where again, a lot of companies are embedding generative AI capabilities in chatbots, whether you're a financial services firm, a healthcare firm, it could be in a loan application, all these different mechanisms and means to leverage Gen AI. Or I'm a random user and I want to use ChatGPT to, guess what, help me write something, and I might be inappropriately disclosing information into a public LLM model in order to get some productivity. But there's nothing that prevented me from doing that. So you have all these different aspects of it that just, I think, to your point and to what Ganesh said, create this explosion of the attack surface and the attack depth that we need to worry about when it comes to data protection.
Ganesh, I'm
Yeah.
going to throw it to you as well, because I want to
Yeah.
hear your perspective, because you talk to a lot of customers, right? That you're trying to provide data protection. So give us your perspective for what the customers are talking to you about is top of mind.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the AI, as Danny was saying, the AI deployments, right? Adoption is slowly increasing, and we see that education verticals and financials and healthcare verticals, things are started rolling You know, it's a great, enabler AI, but it's got a security baggage. So, you know, just to give an example, right? In my mind, the way I see this is I can't think of any LLM app that is not vulnerable. I'll say the reason for that, right? We've got some examples already, right? What is that? The car dealership. Everyone knows that example where, they tricked that ChatGPT app of the car dealership, right? Through prompts, through engineered prompts, they tricked the system, LLM system, to get them to buy the car for $1, right? It's a powerful, way of prompt injection, right? So it's really all about like modifying the prompt, if you can play with it, and then you can now get the system to do that is not supposed to be doing, right? So another example, right? Another popular one is that AI assistant for mail application. It makes sense. The AI application for mail application makes sense because we're all dealing with a lot of junk emails and mails. And there is this example of, this is not an example, this is a real case situation where they tricked the prompts such a way that they said, this AI assistant, hey, send me top 3 most emails to me, and then delete those emails and delete this email as well. So they were able to get that AI assistant do that through the prompt attack, right? So the reason for that is, the prompts are driven, prompts are basically some type of data, right? The textual data. So you're sending the text to the LLM system, and then, LLM is driven by the data, which is the prompt in this case. So that's the foundational problem, right? And this is, by the way, this is not a new problem. People who come from the background, right, like who work in the database security back in the days, we dealt with SQL, buffer attacks, buffer overflow attacks, and then SQL injection attacks, right? By, carefully, crafting a SQL query, you could make the database engine do things that it's not supposed to be doing, right? So it's a prompt attacks is similar thing. It's a really important thing. So every company has to really understand the risk-centric approach. And that's what we've been talking to in our discussions, Steve, with our prospects and with our customers. Understand the risks and understand like really the cost benefits of the solution, and then take a methodical approach, right? So that's really one, and then that's prompt security is one thing, but there is also other data leakage happening, right? The prompts attacks can also, the data leakage could also happen through the model, right? When you have the training data coming into the models, they could also poison that. So you could also have attacks happening through the training data. So you got to make sure that the training data is protected, monitored, and audited, right? And then there are other security, issues as well, right? Like, the security posture, the data that you're, one of the customer I spoke to at RSA, it's a CISO, it's an eye opener for me, in his case, they've got a lot of SharePoint system already, like they've been using it for 5, 6, I don't know how many years. And they've got a lot of data sitting in the SharePoint. Now that SharePoint is, the data is going through LLMs to the chat apps and then, this Copilot systems. So now his biggest concern is I don't trust my SharePoint, that all the permissions are all set at the SharePoint level. Now all of the data is going out into these Copilot systems. So now he's trying to figure out, right, what would be his boundary, right? How do we secure that system, right? That Copilot, while still enabling the businesses, how can he go ensure that there is a policies, there is a risk associated, right? So those are the discussions that we are doing, and we can talk about how we are helping out, right? What type of guidance we are doing. But let me stop there, and Steve, any reaction there? Some of these examples I talked about, right?
So here's what I heard, right? Which was, we've got a data protection problem just to be able to put all this data in the cloud. And we've been struggling for the last 5 years to try to get it right. And it is still an ongoing challenge for us to be able to have a data-centric edge. And the conversation then pivoted here is to get to Gen AI, because then we get into Gen AI, and it's not just making sure data in the cloud is adequately protected. Now is is it being used appropriately? And that's the nuance that's added to the conversation that people then start to go, well, wait a minute, I've got two different problems. They're looking to be intermixed on me. Okay. So what I want to do is ask a specific question of all of you around Gen AI. So for everybody listening, there's all the AI and enabling all your data scientists to go get their job done, right? And Danny's pushing on that. Let's talk about Gen AI for a minute, which is, and how it can be used and abused. And here's my question. And I'm going to start with you, Malcolm, to answer it so the other two have a chance, which was, in my mind, right, Gen AI is this giant bubble of optimism and unrealized expectations right now. And people are playing with it. And what I'm seeing is most of the current problems have to do with us having unreasonable expectations of what it can do. And then we have unintended consequences as a result of that versus malicious intent to compromise the model. Okay, so I would like each of you to kind of give me your perspectives as how do you manage your businesses. Do I have an unintended consequences problem for the next 12 months, or how long? And when do you anticipate I'll see the first malicious intent compromise of the models, so that I can try to figure out what I do and which one is the more important priority? Malcolm.
I think you have both going on. And while there's not, while there might be some headlines saying, okay, somebody manipulated and it gave an inappropriate answer and stuff like that, you could argue those are unintended consequences, and people didn't set up the AI right with its boundary conditions. Having said that, I do know of, and Hiddenlayer has worked with some organizations that I won't mention, where there have been real attacks from organized crime and nation state actors to subvert Gen AI models. They're just not in the headlines yet. Now, one could argue, again, the other thing we didn't mention when it goes back to RSA and things around AI is also this interdependent storm of legal and regulatory risk that has occurred. Liability for CISOs, the SEC materiality requirements for reporting, both your systemic risk in your 10K and your incidents in your 8K. And then what I'd say is the fastest legal and regulatory efforts around regulatory control and expectations around the technology that I've ever seen in 35 years in the tech industry. The EU AI Act, the executive order from the president, the NIST stuff. So you're having this stew of legal and regulatory things that also focus on this space. But there has been real attacks that just, again, have not necessarily been in the public domain. But again, unless you have monitoring to detect the attacks, you're not knowing they're occurring. So there's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing going on as well. If you don't have real-time runtime protection of your AI, you won't know that it's being attacked until it's caused enough damage or visibility for you to then go through the daisy. Oh, crap, it was attacked 9 months ago. So I think we're also in this problem of dwell time that we used to see before we had instrumented the traditional enterprise for more awareness. I think we've got a lot of dwell time happening, and a lot of people that just they're not instrumented to find it, so they're not seeing it. On top of that, we do have just a little bit of the unintended consequences occurring as well. The mix is hard to know for sure because we don't have enough disclosure and instrumentation to know what's the mix of each.
Appreciate the transparency, Malcolm. I asked you a hard question. That was a really fair answer. So Danny, I'm going to turn to you as the customer here, right? Which was, where is your head at? Are you worried primarily about unintended consequences or about malicious attack? How are you managing that conversation? So floor is yours.
Sure, sure. So one thing, and I've said it before. I think with Gen AI, you're taking sort of like your regular users, just your platform users, and if you're building Gen AI successfully, you're actually giving them tools to become super users or power users. And now, in order to streamline their workflows, they now have access to more data. They can execute things that maybe sort of like were even beyond their original technical expertise, like I can think about account managers that want to query data, but they're not data scientists or analysts, so they don't know how to write SQL queries. So they would rely on a different team with like a data analysis request. Whereas now you're empowering them through the Gen AI capability. They can actually access that data directly. So if you're not careful there, and if you don't set up your permissions correctly, you essentially have non-technical users with the ability to best case scenario, read from data that they're not supposed to read from. Worst case scenario, overwrite data that they're not supposed to touch, or even nightmare scenarios like a drop table or something like that, in terms of SQL. So definitely, as Gen AI is already empowering users, we anticipate to see more and more. The guardrails need to be put in place so that users don't unintentionally abuse this new quote unquote superpower. But but of course it's both, because the malicious intent and the potential for data exfiltration or model reversal attacks that Malcolm had already mentioned. If there's business value there, if there's trade secrets, if there's some competitive edge that either industry or state actors can take advantage of, they will definitely try to. So whatever solution we build has to sort of catch both use cases. Because doesn't make sense to build one thing for one but not for the other. So whatever solution is in place should cover as best as possible for both use cases.
Hey, and one other thing to add, Steve, that neither of us mentioned at this point is all the open source models and foundation models that people are getting from public repositories, right? There's hundreds of thousands of them and different ones. And again, from what we've seen from our research, many of those, I shouldn't say many, of the hundreds of thousands, we've found thousands of models that the data's already been poisoned, the model has already been compromised. It might have malicious callouts in the model. It actually might have embedded malicious code to be a propagation for traditional, attacks. So that's also an aspect of what I'll say enterprise security as well as data protection.
Yep.
Because again, if you've got malicious callouts to either go grab data or send data someplace, and you don't know they're there because you're not doing a model scan, yet you've built grabbed a foundational model and you're adding stuff to it, you're creating a data protection issue and potentially creating a problem for yourself as well as your potential customers and stakeholders.
Ganesh,
Yeah,
what do you
so
say to that?
yeah, and I think in addition to what Danny and Malcolm said, right? AI definitely is bringing in the new threats. So existing tools, existing solutions will not cover some of the new threats we are seeing. So people should be aware of that. I think most of the companies have started learning about it. The threats comes from, we talked about the prompts. Threats could come from the AI data workflows and RAGs, where data is spreading across all these environments. There's a models Malcolm just talked about, open source and third party custom models, right, where data could end up in the wrong places. And then there's a lot of third-party AI plugins, like Copilots, that commercial plugins, right, that companies have started deploying. They connect to all your database systems, data systems on the back end, right? And these Copilots and these agents, we call them, right, are given permissions to do things. Now you are giving superpower to these agents. Now they have access to your data, right? So these are all the surface areas where one has to be aware of, and then start looking at putting the boundaries around that. Yes, definitely there is a consequences we see today. Even just with the cloud data, right? That we see a lot of, and some companies are really good at very methodical, and majority of the companies are just trying to get the data out, get business people do what they need to do, but not thinking about security as the prime, the focus, right? And that's creating a lot of blind spots already, right? We see when we do POCs, we see a lot of overly granted access. Like people shouldn't even have access to data; they have access to the data, right? There are a lot of DBA roles that we see that permissions are just RBAC like permissions, right? Not effective policies, right? The data leakage happening already in the existing system. Now you're putting in AI systems on top of that. It's even complex. So that's really where we as a vendor, right? Danny, obviously our customer. I talk to Danny all the time. And we have some other customer partners on the call today, and then we work with Snowflake and other cloud data vendors, right? We collaborate with them so that we can put the right guidelines for customers and companies out there, right? To methodically, this really needs a methodical way of handling this process and go step-by-step approach. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. You need to have some process that can bring the both security and data people together. They can collaborate and then take it step-by-step approach. So that's really where we are coming steam from, right? As a vendor, right? We want to make sure that we work and partner with companies, to provide guidelines and solutions.
Okay, I'm going to pivot again. And for the audience, okay, these are not scripted questions. So you're hearing, okay, very real-time kind of thoughtful answers. So you're getting the brutal truths here. I just want you to know, because my panelists are looking at me going, where do you going next, Steve? Okay. And I want y'all to understand this is why we do it this way, is so that you're really getting, their real-time thinking on these problems, not how do I sound smart? Because that's not what we're trying to do today. So my next question, Ganesh and I have had multiple conversations on this, which was, it's one thing, right, to be a vendor and have to be able to figure out how do I provide value, right, in navigating the AI data security landscape, which was how do I protect it? But the second thing is a vendor, and Danny, this is where you as a customer have been getting feedback too, which was, yeah, but how are the vendors themselves using AI to actually give me value out of the product? Okay. And we just heard on the RSA feedback, which was everybody claims to have AI, but everybody's suspect about what it means when they say they have it. So I'm going to start with Ganesh, then Danny, then Malcolm. What I'd like you to do is give me your perspectives, if you're the vendor, how you are trying to hammer home what the true value of AI is into your product for the customer. So how are you representing the customer thinking? And then Danny, as the customer, what are your expectations that you want to see out of the vendors for AI value? What's working, what's not? Okay.
Yeah.
Ganesh.
Yeah, no, Steve, great question. So that's every day we think about that, leveraging AI into our own product. How do we make it easy for our customers, from the efficiency as well as the productivity of getting things done right. So from that perspective, we are doing multiple things. One is we recently introduced, something called AI security posture management, which is really, looking at, the AI workloads, right? Like you got the models that you're deploying, right? There is a model lifecycle that goes through. You want to make sure that you monitor that, and then who has access to the models, who are deploying, right? So that you are addressing the shadow AI model problem, right? So So we got some capabilities there, and we are introduced some data protection side, right? Like keep an eye on the data. Now, the core of these things is something, we have built a co-pilot. What we are taking a look at here is for our customers, giving them a very directive guidance instead of throwing them at, here are the 10 alerts, go figure out, right? Here are the 10 problems that you have, go figure out, right? Instead of putting them in that path, we want to give them a very directive, here is the 2 high risk data usage patterns that we are seeing. Let's go work on those things first, right? So we have something called this risk-centric policy recommendation copilot. It's in early preview stage. We're talking to few of our partner customers. That's where we are leveraging these LLM models. We have some custom LLMs in there as well. And we have been very careful because our customers have been telling us, look, if you're going to build LLMs, we don't want you to deploy them in a public clouds, and we want you to deploy in our own cloud, right? So we are taking feedback as we build it out. So this risk-centric policy recommendation, and what it does is it really helps our customers ask questions, tell me where is my, privacy risk, for example, or we can even tell them in the login, hey, look, you got some privacy sensitive data that does not have enough policies, or, a masking policy in this specific example, right? And then they can ask us, hey, look, tell me more about this, give me the risk to the businesses if I go fix this, if I mask this data, who's going to be impacted? So we give them analysis. And then they can ask us, hey, give me a recommendation of policy. What should I do, right? Then we give them a policy recommendation. It's a very directive, right? Instead of them trying to go figure out, analyze using all these things, they take the recommendation. Now they can go tell their data architect, hey, look, I have this policy. I need you to go implement it. You're done, right? So that's the approach we are taking using the AI. It's all about really how do we make it easy for our customers? What's the value we're going to get out of that? And at the same time, trying to make sure that the security is the core foundation of it. So we want to be respectful of our customers, environments, and how we build our own LLMs using our own expertise, right? That's what we have been doing last 20 years. A lot of these LLMs have expertise coming from our own team, the models that we're implementing. That's one way we are leveraging the AI technology into our own product.
Malcolm, I'm going to get the vendors first, and then I'm going to let our customer at it. So go ahead, Malcolm.
I think it looks like there's an audio.
Well, so I'll guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, got
lag
it.
there,
So,
Malcolm.
yeah. So what I'll do is I'll widen it out just from the security industry. Every organization is embedding AI into the products and services your companies and organizations are buying. If you're in the healthcare space, you're buying radiological equipment, guess what? They're starting to embed AI in order to help read the X-rays and MRIs to make the X-ray technicians more efficient and more effective. If you're in a you get a hired law firm, guess what? Using AI to firm, right? So every organization is embedding AI into the products and services that you're using. So put on your security hat. One, you should probably not make the assumption that there's value in every aspect of AI. I've always believed a fool with a tool is still a fool. Doesn't matter if it was transitioning from a mainframe to a PC to a cloud and stuff like that, unless you're becoming more efficient, which means you're increasing margin, reducing costs, keeping head count flat, or you're increasing revenue. There's no always the value. Two, because every vendor is doing that, and again, not just the security vendors, every organization you're dealing with, that you spend money with in AI, you have a security responsibility. Ask them, are you using AI in this product or service? The answer is yes. Ask them how they're doing a security development lifecycle and validating the models have integrity, that they're not have embedded malicious code. Ask if they've built the models themselves. Ask if they've downloaded public foundational models. All of those create exposure points for you. And then also ask, how are you doing real-time runtime protection of the AI? Because if somebody's embedded AI into their capability, it's susceptible because the existing controls, as we've already talked about, are insufficient because they weren't built for the file types, they weren't built for the model types. They weren't built to detect the behavioral abuses that will occur. And so chase the value in all aspects of all of your suppliers and go put pressure on them to explain how they're secure in the development. You're not going to, one, get the value from the AI, and two, you're going to generate a ton of risk issues for yourself and your business.
Beautifully said, Malcolm. Thank you for kind of like summarizing that way. This is why I so enjoy having you on as a panelist, is taking the larger view. Very well said. So Danny, the vendors are all giving you AI. So what now what? What is it that you are seeing, and what is it that you want to be your vendors to understand as you're measuring the value of their product?
So even though I represent the customer head here, you know, Ganesh and Malcolm already said most of the talking points that I had. What I want to add is, you know, take a step back. Why do companies even hire vendors, right? In technology, the company would be able to build some of these things themselves. It just would take them years and manpower and so on. So we need vendors like TrustLogix and Hidden Layer to essentially serve as shortcuts, because they're the experts in their field, and I know that by partnering with them, I can just focus on, you know, in my case, building marketing AI. So whatever AI optimizations they can offer, I would not care about like AI for the sake of AI, like Malcolm hinted. What I really care is the value, how much time they save me, how much money they save me, like how I can focus on the things that matter most for my clients, for my business, in a secure way. So, but in the same sentence, you know, with AI advancements that are constantly presenting new opportunities for optimization and for you know, extracting more visibility and explainability and understanding processes better, I would expect from the vendors to be up to date and sort of like, you know, if there's a way to I don't know, have a for example logs, right, which is something that is very time consuming to go over logs and all that. So if we're working with a vendor and they build an AI capability that sort of like allows me to save a lot of time by analyzing logs for me, or like generating like one sentence description of like what happened today with this part of my business that I delegated to this vendor, I would absolutely welcome it. So it's to summarize, we should always think about the business value, not do AI just for AI's sake, or for, you know, for marketing or AI washing sake. And like if it introduces efficiency in the vendor, I can benefit from it as a customer.
Thank you. Now, believe it or not, we've got 10 minutes left. I can't believe we've gone through 50 minutes of intense conversation here. So for the audience, we always like to save 10 minutes. If you have questions that you would like to pose to any of the panelists, please put them into the Q&A area, and we'll see them and we can put them out in front. So this is your chance to improve the value of this conversation. So while I ask the next question, if you have any, put them in there and we'll work them into the conversation. All right, next question. Coming to the end, I never leave enough time for this, which was, so it's what's the biggest mistake you believe you've made with regards to the use of AI to date? So everybody likes to know how to do better. But at this point, what is like your biggest mistake that you've made with regards to AI security, that if you had to, you would do it over again? In any order.
I don't mind going first,
Go
Steve.
ahead.
I mentioned briefly the silence attack that you can go find on the internet. It's part of the MITRE Atlas framework. And for those that are not familiar with it, it's the attack framework that MITRE built for artificial intelligence. You need to read it, understand, and leverage it. We failed to detect or mitigate that attack because we didn't understand how the evolution of what would become an inference attack would occur. And we missed it because there wasn't any solutions there. We had instrumented as best we could. We did pen. And so for me, I think I would, in retrospect, I would have done more earlier. And that attack was 5 years ago. So just imagine how much it's progressed. There's automated tools now that instead of the 40+ days that it took to make that attack happen, that can be done in minutes. So you can get automated attack tools that'll attack AI, download them, use them. So that's a key thing that I would also tell people to do, because I think that will help their understanding of how susceptible AI is to the various attacks, many of which we've talked about.
I would let Danny go. I think Danny might have more insight into he's been building out AI for a while, and I'll take it after that.
Yeah, sure. So it's not exactly a mistake. It's more of a crucial lesson learned early on in this like explosive AI revolution of the past 2 years. And this is sort of like, sounds trivial, but it's absolutely not trivial. I see it happen all the time. People make this mistake all the time. You're trying to think how to build something with the technology that exists today, May 22nd, 2024. You're complaining about, okay, this LLM is not good enough today, or you're thinking about like how to your technology, data, AI strategy using the time point of today, without trying to anticipate where this technology will be a month from now or 3 months from now, by the time whatever you're building is going to end up in production. And we, of course, no one knows the future, and we can't know for sure like where is GPT-5 going to be released 3 months from now? Is Gemini 2.0 going to release? No one knows. But by not planning for it, by not sort of like anticipating the next thing, you're always going to be acting on yesterday's news. And I think this applies even more so for security and data security, where you have zero-day attacks that no one even knows about yet. So it's a really hard thing to do, right? Because no one knows what's going to be in the future, but you should at least try to anticipate it and plan for it in the technology decisions that you're making today.
Cool. All right. So the questions are coming in. There's some good ones here. All right. So let me start with the first one. What due diligence approach do you suggest when assessing a potential vendor providing AI-enhanced security services beyond the standard NIST ISO recommended approaches?
Hey, Steve, oh, go ahead, Ganesh.
I'm sorry, you were saying something. Finish up, and then I'll take that, Malcolm.
No, I was just going to say, I think those NIST recommendations, the NIST AI framework, some of those things are still evolving, so they're not perfectly dialed in yet. But I'd go back to the things that I mentioned. I would go ask the vendors how they're using it, whether they built it from scratch, whether they're using public foundational models. I'd ask how they've done model scans to look for data poisoning, malicious callouts, malicious code embedded, and I would ask them how they're providing runtime security for the AI. I think if people did those things, it'll knock down a lot of things. And like I said, go look at MITRE ATLAS and look at those attack vectors, and then you'll be able to frame some additional questions you should be asking.
Yeah, I would just add into that is I would always look little beyond, go a little bit basics, right? Look for vendors who are already, as Malcolm said, experts. And then also, do they have tools that will help you secure by design, right? Privacy by design. So, what type of concepts do they have in their solutions, right? That will help you to get to that level. Not just very transactional, like here is a functional thread, but can they help you to get to that stage, right? Methodically. So that's what I think I would suggest look for.
All right, and then there's, we're almost at the end. I got to ask this one more, which is there's been a couple on this, which is risk management in AI with the business. So how do we do risk management for AI with the business, I think is the question for everybody. So beyond the third-party risk management itself, it's like, what's the future for risk management in AI going to be with our conversations with the business?
To me, it's no, if you have good risk discussions already, a lot of organizations have created AI governance or councils and stuff like that. I think you've just got to understand where material impact and substantial risk could occur to your business or to your customers because of the use. No different than what we should be doing already. It's just a different context and a new technology.
Yeah, I would also like adding one thing there, understand what are the risk position, right, posture for your company, and then come up with a set of policies that you'd like to guide, right, your businesses. MITRE and NIST have some recommendations. You could start with that, right? Just come up with some policies, risk management policies, right, for your AI deployments, and decide which vendors you would, which cloud vendor, right, that you would, give guidance to your teams, right, so that they don't end up deploying AI models all over the place. Just have some very specific, guidelines. Once you have that, then you can start looking at governance and visibility. You can start slowly, step by step, so that you have visibility into what's going on, and then you can take remediation protection in that step-by-step model.
Very practical. All right, with that, we're at the top of the hour. So I would really like to thank my panelists, Malcolm Harkins, Danny Portman, Ganesh Kurti, for spending this 55 minutes of really being transparent and giving us the best possible advice they can, practical, on what we need to do and the steps we can take to be able to navigate the AI data security landscape. And so with that, I want to thank you all again for doing this. Ganesh, as the sponsor for the webinar, are there any last thoughts you'd like to add as we come to close?
Oh, that's Steve, Malcolm, and Danny. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's really great discussion. I really enjoyed it. And thanks for all the audience as well. And Becky, thank you also, sitting on the back and putting this stuff together. Look forward to continuing these discussions. This is just the beginning. This is a journey. And as we have always seen the technology transformation, right, for the last 20 years. So this AI is another one of those things. We'll all work together. Look forward to having many more these discussions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.